What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and in this video today we are going to go over an interesting question that may have sort of been answered. I don't know, we're going to find out in this article that we're going to read today. Is the ivory-billed woodpecker still alive? Now, this bird has had all kinds of controversy. It's been placed on the endangered species list quite a few times, and people just won't let it go. Everybody thinks that it's actually still there, and quite frankly, as long as sightings keep coming in, birds are hard to find. So it's hard to say whether it is or isn't. I don't think there's any actual confirmed proof. But once again, we're going to find out, I guess. In this article, it's from 2022 or 2021. I don't remember. We'll find out in a second. What I'd like for you guys to do now, though, is please go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bells, and please drop a comment down below with what you guys think about the article and any article that you guys would like for me to cover in the future, or any animal fact you might think that I could find a cool article on that we could also cover in the future. That being said, guys, let's get into this video on the ivory-billed woodpecker. So, like I always like to remind everybody of, I do not own the rights to this article. This article belongs to the adventure-journal.com. If you guys would like to go and read the article there, please go show them some support. I'm only using this to further along knowledge and information and pass it on to everybody else. So, with that being said, we can go ahead and get into this. The extinct ivory-billed woodpecker, not extinct after all. This is from April 19th of 2022, so this is this year. This might actually be interesting. Since 1944, nobody, in a way that can be verified anyway, has seen an ivory-billed woodpecker alive. One common from the Carolinas to Texas, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service recommended last year the bird be removed from the endangered species list because it was extinct. Meanwhile, a group of scientists was climbing through the humid Louisiana forest chasing Whispers, the big bird. Largest woodpecker in North America, still live there. Some of these things are worded fun. Trail cameras, drones, audio recordings, and just as importantly, their own eyes and ears confirmed to members of the study the ivory-billed woodpecker had survived in small numbers after all. They published their findings in a recent and not yet peer-reviewed paper. So not yet peer-reviewed means we don't know whether or not it actually, they're in disagreement as to whether or not it actually still exists. I gotta bring up. Question mark came up on my screen. That sucks. Yeah, so that's what peer review means. It means their peers haven't reviewed it to see if it's legit or not. Yeah. Photos from the cameras were enough to give an indication of size, as well as distinctive markings that are nevertheless difficult to distinguish even for experts from other woodpeckers that have similar colorings. Even better, the use of video allowed the scientists to make detailed observations about how the birds foraged for food and interacted socially, adding further differentiation that these were indeed the elusive ivory-billed woodpeckers. So that's actually fun. The ivory-billed woodpecker and the pileated woodpecker look almost identical with the exception of size and some markings. So a lot of people that have thought they've seen ivory bills are actually just seeing pileated woodpeckers. And yeah, so it's kind of hard to judge the difference. Steve Latta, who led the research team, had one particularly memorable encounter with the bird. It flew up at an angle, and I watched it for about 6 to 8 seconds, which was fairly long for an ivory-billed woodpecker. Latta told The Guardian, "I was surprised. I was visibly shaken afterwards. You realize you've seen something special that very few people had the opportunity to see." Many ornithologists had a hunch that swampy forest of the southeast held a small population of the shy birds. No one has held a camera and got a picture of one in years because it is a scarce bird in tough swampy habitat, and they don't want people too close to them because they've been shot at for 150 years, said Geoffrey Hill, a biologist who unsuccessfully tried to spy the bird in the Florida in 2005. So that's kind of a hard thing to say, though, because if they're that elusive, any bird now probably hasn't seen a human that actually shot at it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's possible, but I don't know if humans would have actually shot at woodpeckers these days. So I don't know if that logic is sound. I mean, they could just be a scarce population, but yeah. Short. I'm gonna go ahead and read this one from ecowatch.com, and Yeah, please go over there and show their support there. I think it's about the same sightings, but we're going to find out. Not extinct after all, first widely accepted sighting of ivory-billed woodpecker since 1944. With a call that's been described as that of a tin trumpet and making a double tap sound with its long bill, the ivory-billed woodpecker is the third largest woodpecker in the world and the largest north of Mexico. According to All About Birds, the elusive woodpecker had apparently been seen in the big woods of eastern Arkansas in 2004. The Arkansas Democratic Gazette reported, but it was still determined to be extinct by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service last year. The beautiful black and white tree-dwelling ivory-billed woodpecker males have a bright crest that looks like a red hat. It was declared extinct after not having had a widely accepted sighting since 1944, The Guardian reported. Though they once made old-growth forests from the Ohio River Valley down to Florida and Cuba their home, populations shrunk in the 1800s due to hunting and habitat destruction. However, it appears that the FWS spoke too soon when they determined there were no more ivory-billed woodpeckers in existence. A research team from the National Aviary, a project principalist, went on a years-long search for the woodpecker and using trail cameras and drone videos accumulated evidence that at least 3 ivory-billed woodpeckers are living in the bottomland forests of the National Research Study site in Louisiana. The National Aviary said the research has yet to be peer-reviewed, reported The Guardian. The team's paper, multiple lines of evidence indicate survival of ivory-billed woodpecker in Louisiana, was printed by BioRxiv. Director of the Conservation at the National Aviary in Pittsburgh, Stephen C. Latta, who led the search and was co-author of the paper, observed an ivory-billed woodpecker fly. It flew up at an angle, and I watched it for about 6 to 8 seconds, which was fairly long for an ivory-billed woodpecker, Latta said. As The Guardian reported, I was surprised. I was visibly shaking afterwards. You realize you've seen something special that very few people had the opportunity to see. Once relatively common, the ivory-billed woodpecker feeds on insects and the bark of recently dead trees. After having been hunted for decades, the woodpecker became understandably wary of people and avoided them by flying high into to the trees, said biologists at Auburn University Hill who participated in the search for the ivory-billed woodpecker in Florida. No one has held a camera and got a good picture of one in years because it's a scarce bird in tough swampy habitat and they don't want people too close to them because they've been getting shot at for 50 years. Hill said, as reported by The Guardian, Latta said that the size and markings in the photos of the bird recorded by the researchers indicate that it was an ivory bill and not another type of woodpecker. So once again, though, foliated woodpeckers look just like ivory bills. So I'm not saying these guys don't know what they're talking about, and it'd be really cool if that was alive and is an ivory-billed woodpecker. But I don't know. I mean, we gotta see whenever they actually put out the paper, and at least according to the internet, it doesn't look like they had it. Because the first thing that I clicked on was this, and this is the non-peer-reviewed stuff. It reinforces to me that yes, the bird does exist and left me feeling a sense of responsibility to protect it for the future, said Latta, as The Guardian reported. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name throughout all this. And that's the end of that article. I'll tell you guys what we can do. Let me find an article on like the history of ivory bills, and then we'll close out after that. Okay, so I went to the allaboutbirds.org, and we're going to give you guys, this is ivory-billed woodpecker life history. Let's go and check it out. I mean, like we're, just kind of learning as we go here today. Habitat. Ivory-billed woodpeckers use extensive stands of large trees and often forage in areas where many trees had been recently killed by flooding, fire, and other disturbances. They originally occur in upland pine forests, but by 1891 they nested mainly in bald cypress swamps and foraged in the drier margins where the swamps met upland pine forest in Louisiana, where Jim Tanner made his classic study of ivory bills during the 1930s. He found them in essentially undisturbed areas of mature forest that included both dry uplands and flooded swamps. The main tree species in this area were sweet gum, Nuttall's oaks, green ash, America elm, willow and water oaks, and sugarberry, hackberry. Tanner estimated that one pair of ivory-billed woodpeckers occupied about 6 square miles of forest. The Cubist subspecies was also affected by logging, and by the mid-1800s was restricted to... So that's actually kind of interesting. A pair of birds occupied a 6-mile territory. So that's only two birds every 6 miles. So when you're taking out there's just not forest like that, especially not these days. I'm sure there might have been some overlap, but that's actually really interesting. That's a big, I guess when you can fly, it's not that big of a range. Food. The ivory-billed woodpeckers ate mostly large beetle larvae of the longhorn, jewel, and click beetle families. To a lesser extent, they also ate much smaller larvae of the bark beetle family, including the southern pine beetle. This beetle species can reach large numbers in areas where fire, floods, and other disturbances create stands of dead trees, a feature that ivory bills sought out. They typically use their large bills to strip the bark from dead trees and fallen logs, or less frequently made deep excavations into the woods as pileated woodpeckers do. They also ate fruits and nuts, including hickory, pecan, magnolia, poison ivy, grapes, prisms, hackberries, and possibly acorns. So that's kind of funny. You get rid of, pine beetles are a plague, is the easiest way to describe it in areas, and we've gotten rid of a bunch of the things that ate them. Nesting. Ivory bills excavated nest in dead trees or in dead sections of living trees, typically just below a broken branch, both for protection from rain and because the wood there has often been softened by fungi and rot. They nested in bald cypress pines, red maple, nuttals, and overcup oaks. By elm, sweet gum, tupelo, hackberry, and possibly cabbage palm nests were between 15 and 70 feet off the ground. That's high. Audubon reported that both sexes excavated the nest hole. They excavated an oval nest 4 to 5 inches wide and 5 to 6 inches tall. Inside the hole could be as deep as 2 feet. The birds stripped away bark from below the nest entrance. The birds typically built a different nest hole each year. Nesting facts. They could have clutch size of 1 to 5 eggs. The eggs descriptions are usually white. Conditions at hatching, naked and helpless. So basically like most birds, they were just tiny. Behavior. Audubon describes the ivory-billed's flight as graceful in the extreme with long swooping glides between trees. Tanner, in his 1930 study, described them as flying with steady wing beats in a strong direct path. The birds often flew above the treetops when traveling longer distances. Ivory-billed woodpeckers may have been fairly social, with reports of as many as 11 individuals seen at one time and 4 foraging in the same tree. The birds were probably monogamous and maintained their pair bonds year-round. In one report of a courtship display, a male perched near a female. The pair preened, and then the birds held each other's bills briefly. So that kind of contradicts what was said above, though, doesn't it? The two birds had a range, a home base, essentially, like a home range of 4 miles, and I was like, the birds had, if the birds had a territory of 4 miles, yeah, you could have up to 11 of them in a tree. That's kind of different, I guess. All right, conservation. The ivory-billed woodpecker is probably extinct. Partners in Flight rates the species as a 20 out of 20 on the Continental Concern Score and places it on the Red Watch list. Ivory-billed woodpecker is also listed as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List and federally endangered by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Destruction of the woodpecker's mature old-growth forest habitat caused populations to decline, and by the 1880s, the species was rare. Forest destruction accelerated during World War I and II war efforts, destroying much of its habitat. Although the species was thought to be extinct, it was rediscovered in Arkansas in 2004. However, extensive research from 2006 to 2010 did not produce any definite evidence of a surviving population. And here's the credits. Okay, guys, well, that was 3 articles. 2 of which were basically about the same thing, but those were the most recent reported sightings of ivory-billed woodpeckers, and that was carried out by actual research scientists. So I am very hopeful, and I really hope they found them. What I really hope is they only found 3 of them, if that's true. So if you got 3 males, then it's doomed, and 3 isn't the greatest starting point for a population. But I mean, if there's 3 of them out there and they found them, like, the swamps in Florida are thick, guys, and they could be anywhere. I mean, they have a range, like it said, all the way from, all the way up from Mexico across and into Florida and everything. So, I mean, who knows? There could be small pockets of them everywhere, and we just don't know about it. Like I said, it's hard to tell the difference between that and a pileated woodpecker. So, I mean, there could be, people could see a pileated woodpecker. It could actually be a ivory bill, and they would just never know. So that's interesting. The common person, like average person, is not going to be able to like tell the difference. That's for sure. And yeah, so I mean, I hope that they found them. I hope they're still out there. It would be amazing if they were. But yeah, and I mean, there's all kinds of sightings coming in. I hope it doesn't get thrown on the extinct list just to get pulled off again. And I kind of hope also that this might bring more attention to the big questions out there. Like, okay, so if these things aren't extinct, then maybe other things aren't extinct, and it could bring like a lot more. Maybe some of the cryptids out there are just animals that we don't know about, or it could open up a lot of possibilities, I think. So that'd be really cool if it did. It'd be really cool if it comes to fruition and this is true. If you guys made it this far in the video, guys, it means you enjoy my content. So please, once again, do me a huge favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I am very, very close to 200 subscribers, and I would love to hit it. I would also love to reach like 1,000 and be able to do this all day and just bring you guys this awesome content and about this awesome information about nature that I'm finding super interesting, and I'm getting really into this. Please turn on the notifications, and also, like I said, please drop a comment with anything you would like me to see me cover in the future. If I like it and I think it's a cool idea, I'll give you guys a shout out in the video. And yeah, without further ado, guys, I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.